You both began your trek up the road. It was a quiet night, and you didn't run into anyone else. In what felt like no time at all, you had reached your street. As you walked, Ko smiled to himself. It was a soft expression, and you couldn't help but wonder what put it there. Everything okay? I just remember when we were younger, it used to be such a big deal to come home after dark. You can indeed recall if you got sandy, your parents would have something to say. If you got wet, your parents would have more to say. And if you came home after dark, well, your mom's and his dad better have said it was okay beforehand. You used to need permission for everything. That small comment he made exposed just how much freedom you really had this summer. Kobe looked up into the sky, a smile still on his face, as the two of you walked side by side, reminiscing. When you came to your houses, you turned to each other. Thanks for today, Zee. Hi, it was nice seeing you. This was definitely an interesting experience. Yep, thanks for the awesome day. Yeah, thanks for the awesome day. Kobe waved and you both turned around to your respective houses. This was a pleasant end to the outing, you thought. Wow, just that's the first experience. That was great. Another growing one. Family kind of scares me. Early one afternoon, you found yourself in the living room with your family. It was another one of those summer days where it felt too hot to go outside, but it was too uncomfortable to do anything inside either. The air conditioner was cranked up as far as you could negotiate it, but everyone was still being pretty lazy. Yep. Oh. You, your moms, and sister were lounging around while the TV blared on in the backdrop, ignored by all of you. You specifically were lying spread eagle on the carpet, sitting cross-legged on the floor, perched on the arms of the couch, draped over the coffee table. I guess out of all these, I'd be perched on the arm of the couch. Elizabeth had claimed the entire couch for it herself. It was too hot to argue over the space, so you didn't bother. Elizabeth broke the silence with a loud groan. You glanced over, she was lying on her back over the couch, massaging her calf with one hand. I feel terrible. I'm dying in this house, and my legs hurt. Mom looked up from the magazine, and she barely been flipping through, and frowned concerned. Could you have strained them somehow? That was all. Elizabeth flailed briefly, then flopped onto her side with a heavy sigh. I don't know, it just hurts. Sweetie. Ma got up from her seat at the kitchen table and walked over to your sister. She did a light pat on Elizabeth's shoulder sympathetically. I'm sorry you have to deal with that. Maybe it's the growing pains. You could be taller by next fall. Is that an actual thing that people have? Me, of course, never had it. Elizabeth scoffed. She didn't look impressed by Ma's assessment. I'd throw my height forever than deal with this. Mom walked over too, leaning against the back of the couch. Kids, they grow up so fast. Soon Elizabeth will have a home of her own, maybe even with a nice husband and some kids if she feels like it. She sniffled loudly and wiped at her eyes, but you could tell that it was just a bit. You tilted your head, even though you knew Elizabeth liked guys. It was hard to imagine her with a boyfriend or a husband. She only seemed invested in hanging out with her group of friends, not chasing after boys. Mom must agree with you because she shook her head. Let's not exaggerate. She's still practically a child. But if you ever do pursue romance, Elizabeth, you can come talk to me about it. Definitely. We're always willing to lend an ear. Elizabeth's features contorted in disgust. No way. I'm not talking to my moms about that. Mom's jaw dropped and she gasped in an exaggerated display of shock. Her hands came up to rest against her chest. Molly grinned. She didn't look offended by Elizabeth's quick response at all. I really wouldn't be so bad to come to us. I know what it's like to have a crush on a pretty boy or two. I don't, but I can listen anyway. Mom snorted at her own joke. Wow, Mom burst into giggles. They were having a little too much fun at Elizabeth's expense. Elizabeth certainly wasn't feeling the amusement because she rolled her eyes and sat up. I'm going back to my room. I'd rather melt alone, thanks. She strode off towards the staircase, taking the steps two at a time. Your mom stared after her, then turned to each other with raised eyebrows. Whoops, looks like we scared her off with all that romance talk. We'll get her next time. You watched them titter with some surprise. Obviously, your moms liked women, but you had no idea that Ma liked guys too. Today was the first time you heard her say something like that. Ma, I always thought you only liked ladies. You like guys too? Ma turned to you, happy to bring you into things now that you've spoken up. She smiled and nodded. That's right, I like both. But I like your mom most out of everyone. She's special. Ma's smile turned all soft in the corner, like it usually did when she looked at her. She pinched Mom's cheeks slightly. Mom reached up to cup a hand over Ma's. Even when Ma stopped pulling her cheek, their hands remained clasped together.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Lonnie. I think most women have charm, but no one can hold a candle to you. Pamela. Ma beamed, then kissed Mom on the cheek, and she'd been pinching before. You laughed at their antics. You thought the moment was sweet. You cringed. Parents were embarrassing. I mean, I think this is super sweet. But I think me, as a child, middle schooler, I'd be like, ugh. You slouched down as if that would hide you from sight. Why were parents like that? Ma looked back to you, letting Mom's hand go with a brief squeeze. She settled down next to you and Mom followed soon after. You know, I'm also here to listen to you whenever you're ready. That offer isn't just for Elizabeth. She bumped her shoulder with yours, a reassuring smile in place. There's no rush, of course. You can take all the time you need to figure out what or who you want.
Okay.
Don't think you have to stick with whatever you come up with right now either. Life's nice like that. I can change and you can learn. Mom nodded her agreement. Wow, that's actually great advice, kids. The two of us are happy to hear you out, and we may be able to relate better than you think. Still, we won't push the topic, at least most of the time. She gave Ma the weakest scathing look possible while being unable to stop grinning. Thanks, you nodded slightly, you shrugged. You don't have to worry about it. I'd rather pass on all that. See, honestly, with me, I've never dated a lot in my life, but even if I did, I feel like I'd be so embarrassed about it that I just would never tell anyone. I probably would just shrug. Yeah. You had no idea when you'd take them up on that, or if you ever would. Mom let out another exaggerated sniffle. It didn't take a genius to realize it was fake. First Elizabeth, and now you, Z. Do you have to grow up? Yes, children tend to do that from time to time. Your parents quickly grew absorbed in their conversation about repairing kids. You took that as your cue to leave, getting up so you could spend some time alone in your room too. They let you go without problems, so you made your way up the stairs. You let out a sigh once you stepped into your room. It was just as sweltering in there as it was in the living room, possibly even a little warmer. You couldn't even open your windows since it was hotter outside and you just let the AC out. You dragged your feet as you crossed the room. You checked your current sweltering condition in the mirror as you passed by. You thought back to the conversation you had downstairs about throwing up and all that. Did I pick the wrong option? After a moment, you stepped a bit closer to the mirror. You stared into it, then turned away from the surface to look down at yourself. You were definitely growing, alright. It was weird thinking about how you were now, in comparison to what you'd been when you were younger. When it came to your body, it was getting some muscle definition nowadays, was chubby, was slender, was heavy set. At that age, I was definitely scrawny. You shifted to the side, your head still facing forward, and continued the self-evaluation from this viewpoint. At birth, you were assigned female. At birth, you were assigned male. You were born intersex. At birth, you were assigned female, and your chest was flat now, but that would likely change at least a little as you got a little older. You were starting to develop breasts. Goodness will lose. You aim not to have breasts through hormone therapy. Wow, this is... I knew they like did gender stuff, but I didn't expect this. I guess I would go with this option. You tried to imagine what your adult self might be like. You took a step backwards, finished with your impromptu inspection. You locked eyes with your reflection, cocking your head to the side, all things considered. You thought you looked fantastic. You didn't look too bad. You had no idea how to feel. You were simply neutral. You were self-conscious. You just wanted to look different than you did. I had no idea how to feel. You tilted your head over to the opposite side as if it would help you make up your mind, but didn't. You shook your head roughly, putting thoughts of what you were turning into out of your mind. This wasn't the time to focus on such things. You had to find something to do in this heat. I feel like for me, like, I've been told a lot growing up, like, I don't wear makeup and all that, but, like, I've been told, like, I was good looking a lot. But being told it a lot made it feel like I was a disappointment in a way, because I didn't feel like I was good looking, you know? Like, I didn't think I was the best. Like, I didn't think I was bad either, but there's still things to scrutinize. You shuffled over to your bed, collapsing onto the mattress, your brows scrunched up in thought. Time passed slowly, and to your annoyance, possible ideas about what to do were few and far between. You weren't sure how long it had been, but eventually you heard your mom call you from downstairs. Z! There's a call for you. Cove wants to come over. Is that alright? He perked up at the words, sitting up in bed. He yelled back to her immediately. Yeah! You got to your feet and headed downstairs, eager to see your friend. You needed to go downstairs soon anyway, because your empty stomach told you it was almost time for lunch. Just as you reached the bottom of the stairs, you saw Mom put the phone back on the receiver. She glanced at Ma, leaning her hip against the kitchen counter. Here comes trouble. We better prepare ourselves. Ma clicked her tongue in clear disapproval of Mom's words. He's such a good boy. Cove never wants to cause trouble. He can just be a bit of a thoughtless and impulsive. Oh, I know. He's very sweet, but that's what makes him more of a problem. If a stranger or some kid from school is egging Z on to behave badly, I think we can both agree that she'd do the right thing in the end. But if Cove Holden got into a reckless mood and wanted Z to be part of the ride, can we really be certain of what call she'd make then? I think so. Z helps Cove settle down. He would have gotten himself in even more trouble without her. You have a point. Ma just laughed as she turned away, still snorting. Her eyes met yours. She blinked in surprise, then waved at you with an easy grin. Mom looked over, noticing you at the foot of the stairs as well. I didn't expect you to come down already, Z. I just wanted to let you know what was happening. Pretending you didn't overhear the conversation, you called Mom out on her comments. I would probably pretend. Yeah, it's okay, I just got here. From the way Mom and Ma exchanged amused glances, you got the feeling that they didn't believe you. Thankfully, they didn't correctly accuse you of lying. Sure, well, we'll just go out of the way. You and Cove take care. You couldn't help but flush when Ma winked. Mom elbowed her even as a smile tugged out her lips. Honestly, this lady. Your moms whispered amongst themselves as they went down the hall. Eventually, you heard the faint sound of their bedroom door shutting. Now you were alone in the living room, tasked with waiting for Cove. And that was just fine with you. If it hadn't been so hot outside, you would have visited him at his house a long time ago. He took a seat at the kitchen counter and settled in for a wait. As expected, there was a knock on the door a few minutes later. When you got up and answered it, your neighbor was standing on the other side. He came in once you stepped aside to let him pass, giving a little wave. You greeted him as you typically did. With a wave, with a high five, with a nudge to the shoulder, with a noogie, with a hug. I probably just wave. With a wave. You waved back, closing the door behind him with your free hand. Cove sighed and wiped out his face a bit. You noted this sheen of sweat across his brow. He must be glad to be back in an air-conditioned place, even if he only had to walk across the street to get there. Is something going on? Why'd you want to come over? I don't want to do anything, not when it's like this. He gestured vaguely to the humid air hanging around. I thought I could at least do nothing with you. Aww. You thought that was really sweet. How'd you know I was doing nothing? Maybe I had plans. You nodded, that made sense to you. I was thinking the exact same thing. I feel like I have to go with the first option, because literally my immediate response was all. His words were nice and expressed real fondness for you in a strange sort of way, which was usually the case with Cove. Have you had lunch yet? I was gonna do it soon. He shook his head. I haven't really felt like eating because of the heat. I probably should have lunch. I didn't have breakfast this morning. Yeah, I get like that sometimes too. You should really eat properly. You didn't eat at all? Then you gotta have something now. Great, we can eat lunch together. Yeah, I'm not gonna scold him about not eating breakfast. I, for one, just don't eat breakfast. Don't see a reason to. Yeah, I'll just go with the great, we can eat lunch sometime. Lunch together. Cove nodded, looking content with your suggestion. Okay, cool. As you headed into the kitchen, you crossed your arms as you glanced around, wondering what you should scrounge up for a meal. I don't want to eat anything that's warmed up. Is there something cold or not cooked? Yeah. After a bit of back and forth, the two of you concluded that you should raid the fridge and cabinet in order to make sandwiches. With that settled, you had planned to decide on the outside layers first. There was a wide variety to choose from since everyone in your house had their own favorites. There was white bread, wheat bread, sourdough, mixed grains, gluten-free bread, and pita pockets. Could you take the grain one for me? Sure. Me and this guy have a lot in common. You reached for the mixed grain. Oh, he got mixed. Then made your decision. I'm definitely, Wait, there's not a whole wheat option? Excuse me? No whole wheat? I love my wheat. I guess I'll go with white bread. Pulled out the white bread too, setting both items onto the counter. Then you had to decide what main direction the sandwich would go. Minus waiter. I'll go with savory. Something savory would make it feel like a real meal. As for the specific ingredients, ooh, I wonder if I can pick all of these. Let's go with turkey slices. Lettuce, red onions, peppers, pickles, pepper jack cheese, and then you moved on to condiments. For additional touches, you intend to top your sandwich with mayonnaise, salt and pepper, and that should be good. And that was everything. You nodded to yourself with a quiet hum, satisfied. That sounds amazing. I'm so good at making sandwiches. The two of you bustled around the kitchen, opening and closing things in order to collect everything you needed for your individual sandwiches. You focused intently on assembling your own for the most part. When you were close to being done, though, you glanced over at your neighbor. Cove was putting his sandwich together delicately, his brow furrowed and tongue sticking out just barely. There were open jars of peanut butter and honey near his plate, as well as a bacon. Okay, nope, we don't have stuff in common, except for the orange soda thing. Ugh, that sounds awful. So he was making a peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwich on mixed grain bread.